Today on Aspiring Women, a near-fatal car accident changes one woman's life forever.
You hit a cement wall at 72 miles an hour, something's going to happen. And, you know, it is a miracle that I'm alive.
Despite her disability, Gracie Rosenberger is encouraging others to stand with hope.
Hi, welcome to Aspiring Women. We've got such an incredible show for you today, but I got to ask you ladies first. Now, were you the type of youngsters that listened to your parents?
Oh, I did. I was a really good girl.
I believe it. I so believe it.
It's true, but I can tell you, my teenagers. Oh, my son. I don't even. When he starts telling stories of when he was in Europe, I'm like, I don't even want to know that. I don't even want to hear.
Too much information.
Yeah.
No, absolutely, I did not. I was the youngest of 5 children. Are you kidding? If they said no, I went yes. If they said yes, I said no. And it was just part of that process.
You're the spoiled baby.
I was the youngest, but I'll tell you this: with my teenage daughters, I say to them all the time, "Now listen, there's nothing you can try that I have not tried."
Well, I was chicken. I was completely chicken because I believed that my mother's eyeballs fell out of her head and rolled around the corner and she could see whatever was going on. So when she warned me that something was happening, I believed her and I just didn't do it.
Well, I was just afraid of my mom.
I was
scared
afraid.
to death.
I was more afraid of my mother than God,
Yeah,
I'm telling
me
you.
too.
Well, God, your mother, aren't they kind of the same?
Yeah, you know.
If only that were true.
Yes.
So I learned to listen to that little voice, you know, because you always go, something told me.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's someone. Well, at just 17 years old, Gracie Rosenberger thought that she was invincible until a weekend college road trip turned into a tragedy. A horrific car crash would test Gracie's courage and determination. Here's her story.
1983, it was my first semester at Belmont College, and I'd come up from Florida, where I'm from, and I had spent the whole semester just really thinking that really 3 hours a night of sleep was fine, and that I was pretty much immortal, that nothing would happen to me. And I just wanted to go and see a friend and meet her in Little Rock, Arkansas, and she was in Dallas, and it was at the end of the semester, right before finals, and my parents kind of sensed that I was too tired to go on the trip, and they called me 2 times before I left and said, you know, we really think you just shouldn't do this trip, that you're too tired. And I said, nothing's going to happen to me. And I said those very words and got in the car and prayed over the trip before I got in the car. And an hour and 45 minutes out, I fell asleep, and the truck drivers that were around me on the interstate, it was on I-40, said I just put my head down on the wheel and I hit a cement abutment about 72 miles an hour. And thank God I didn't hit anybody else. It is a miracle that I'm alive. My heart stopped 4 times, and one time when I was in the car, and somebody was there and restarted it, the truck driver said. I mean, he got halfway into the car and got it going again. I immediately went into shock. The truck drivers, there were 10 of them that pulled me over. That pulled over and got their fire extinguishers out because the engine had started to catch fire, and I was trapped in the car. So they got the ambulances there and the paramedics and everything, and they had to use the jaws of life to get me out. And when they got me out, they took me to a local hospital that was near there, and they just said they couldn't do anything, and the paramedics made them start blood. By the time I got to Nashville, though, to St. Thomas Hospital, my blood pressure was 40/20. The biggest thing was all the internal injuries, and I had internal bleeding and stuff, so they wanted to make sure that I was going to live. The legs were just, broken bones. That was just a secondary thing, and we didn't even start really working on the legs until I was conscious. I had 52 broken bones and multiple compound fractures, and back broken, and my left side of my hip was crushed, and I was in traction. I was in tons of pain, and I woke up with my mouth wired together, not realizing that I had fallen asleep, what had happened. And the only conscious memory, I can't remember seeing, but I remember hearing one of the truck driver's voices. Actually, he came even to visit me in the hospital. And I remember this voice trying to say, "What is your name? What is your name? Don't go to sleep. Don't go to sleep." You know, where are you from? Trying to get information, just try to keep me awake. I remember seeing flames. And I knew I couldn't move because I remember trying to move. You know, it's like having a dream and trying to run in a dream. It's like, what is the matter? I'm in slow motion. And so I remember thinking, I need to get out of here. This is on fire. This may sound crazy. I don't care. I remember looking in the flames, and the last thing I remember, I don't know if I said it out loud or if I just said it, you know, I thought it, but I just said, "Jesus, only you can get me out of this. You know, I've gotten myself into something I cannot get out of myself."
Just think, she had 3 hours sleep only, and she was making this long drive. You know, AAA reports that driving drowsy causes just as many crashes as drunk driving.
Wow,
and
that's amazing.
Yeah, and according to one source, 100,000 crashes are caused each year because of driver fatigue, resulting in 1,500 deaths. I mean, it's a huge problem.
And many police officers pull over drivers that they think are drunk, but they're actually sleepy or sleep deprived.
Well, that's what happened to me when I was living in California. I was driving home one night. I lived in the valley, and I was coming from church downtown, and I'm driving, and all of a sudden I hear this voice say audibly, "Open your eyes." And when I opened my eyes, that's when I realized I had been sleeping, and the car was just weaving up the street. Can you imagine?
Happens too
That was
much.
just God.
Yeah. Well, after falling asleep at the wheel, Gracie was clinging to life, but her nightmare was just beginning. She would ultimately face the most difficult decision anyone could ever make.
It hurt too much to even use a cane or a walker or anything. At that point, my doctor just said, "There is no other surgery we can do. We have done everything and more."
Welcome back. Gracie miraculously survived the car crash despite massive trauma to her body. Over the next decade, she met her husband Peter and started a family. But she also endured nearly 60 surgeries and came face to face with one final, unimaginable option.
I just thought anything could be better than losing a limb. So I just tried everything. We tried fusion after fusion, and I mean, most of my surgeries have been orthopedic. And in '91, I was in so much pain that I was crawling. I mean, you know, I had a toddler who was learning to walk, and I was crawling from room to room. I mean, it hurt too much to even use a cane or a walker or anything. At that point, my doctor just said, "There's no other surgery we can do." He just said, "Look, when you're ready, you just call me and say, I can't handle the pain anymore." So I went back and I called my doctor and I said, "Let's just go ahead and take it." And I was terrified. And he said, "I tell you what, why don't you go down to this place called Nashville Orthotics and Prosthetics." I toured the facility and saw that, oh my goodness, they're not making wooden legs anymore. I mean, they're making some state-of-the-art things. I took those first few steps, and I mean, you know, Peter was there, and it was terrifying, but you know, those were some of the most freeing steps I've ever taken. You know, all to come to the conclusion that I had to get freedom back. I had to lose, you know, that leg. And then in '95, I ended up having to lose the left one. I didn't know if I was going to be able to have children, and because of my pelvis being crushed. And so that's why we had to have the 2 C-sections. And now that we've had them...
Oh, they're great. They're just... We both look at these boys and we just kind of like, dear Lord, why, you know, I mean, they are just fabulous. I mean, we kiss on them and hug them, and we just can't get enough of them. I'm
just a mom who wants to, when my boys go, "Mom, I wonder if you could do this." Our oldest, he had gone to one of those rock wall climbing birthday parties or something, and I went out there and saw it, and Parker goes, "Mom, I bet you could do this." And I go, "Parker, I don't think I'd really like to see you try to do this." And so that was one of the first things that we tried. And I started, I snow skied before I had the accident. And so I really wanted to snow ski again. And I had been told this whole time, even in the initial hospital stay after the accident, "Look, you're going to have to just grieve this out. You're never probably going to be able to snow ski again.
You know, she started with the disabled ski program out in Montana, and this past Christmas she skied her first expert slope, which was
when I got up there, I'm like, what was I thinking? You know, because that was the first expert slope that I had done. But I trained for 9 years to do it, and it basically, I mean, it was a totally when I lost that second leg, I was like, I'm going to snow ski now. When I watch my whole family skiing together, it's just, there's no words. I mean, this is my family, the one that was sitting around all these hospital beds, and I'm looking at her going, and it's just, you know, your heart just is beating so hard because you're so proud of what has happened in your life. She is a wonderful singer. The things that are really deep down in the core of who you are sometimes just can't be expressed for me except through a song. It's not about showing, okay, how big your range is or all the vocal gymnastics that you can do or all the different styles you can do. I've gotten very focused. We used to go out with a band, and now I'm just like, we don't need a band. I just need a piano and a mic. And sometimes you don't even need that. Again, there's a purpose to it. Everything now is lining up in the core purposes. People are hurting. People are just in agony. They need to hear a hope that is real, that is credible, that is believable. And sometimes music's the only thing that they'll listen to. Music is that thing, and it's become that purpose for us to be able to communicate something that is so deep within us that anchors us into Christ.
Now, you know what? She is a better woman than me, because I don't know if I could have parted with my legs. I would have been still trying to hold on to them in my pain. I mean, that is just such a testimony to the strength of the human spirit.
Yeah, but Michelle, if you were in pain
amazing.
Constantly, I think I would have probably made the same choice. But you know, it's amazing. She has conquered so much. She's a better woman than I am because I don't snow ski and I don't do rock climbing.
Well, I got 2 good legs. 2 legs I got. Amen.
I mean, but the drive, you know, the drive and the force. Here's somebody that doesn't want self-pity. She doesn't want anybody to feel sorry for her either. She just wants to get out there and do it.
Proportionate. It's like the drive is proportionate to the lack of what she's got. And she just says, boy, I'm going to really press ahead. But I have to
can we talk about her husband?
That's what I was going to say. But he is quite a man to walk her through all that, because I understand that they actually
he
met
after the accident, right?
After the accident, they met and got married. And to go through 60 surgeries, I mean, my husband went through 2 childbirths, and that's all he did.
You know, with my little car accident, it wasn't that major, but I'm telling you, the guy I had started dating didn't hang around. He was like, I'm out of here. You can't walk around and hang out with me? Fine, I'm out.
But God brought the right man for her.
Yes.
And then to see their beautiful
boys.
Aren't they cute? They were just very beautiful. And so it is such
I'm inspired. I can handle my little hurt knee.
She sits. I thought that was interesting, where you can see where her amputee happened. Or where they
try to hide him, really.
Yeah.
She has freedom. She's freed up. Well, coming up, while Gracie was conquering mountains, bigger plans were growing in her heart, so she could use her disability to help others.
There are people that will be watching this in a hospital bed, in a nursing home, in a rehab center, whatever. God is bigger than this.
Gracie and Peter started a special nonprofit ministry called Standing with Hope. They share their music and story to encourage other amputees. But recently, they embarked on a new mission that would take them across the globe. Here's more.
In '95, when I lost the left leg and I became a double amputee, I knew in my heart that I was supposed to help get limbs to people overseas. We became partner affiliates with Johnny Erickson Tada's organization. They do Wheels for the World. They distribute wheelchairs, crutches, walkers all over the world. We met some people in Dallas last year when we were out there at one of her family retreats, and we were helping lead worship and stuff out there. And I just told John, he heads the whole Wheels for the World organization up. And I said, well, John, and I kind of just threw it out there. I said, you know, we need to be doing limbs when you do wheelchairs. He goes, well, why don't you meet us for breakfast the next morning? I want you to meet a couple that's here in Dallas on furlough. And we were sitting there at breakfast, and he goes, John said, I want you to tell them what you told me last night. And I told them, and he goes, we need limbs in Africa. We need limbs specifically in West Africa, in Ghana, in that area. And I said, Africa.
We do this as a prototype, but what we did differently was we're not just providing a leg, we're teaching workers there within the Ministry of Health how to build a socket. Then they can attach the feet. We showed them how to attach the feet. All we'll have to do is send a foot now to them, and the componentry and so forth, and they will attach it. And it's just that simple, because they can help a lot more people than we could ever help.
When you give a call for the disabled in Africa, they come out of the woodwork because they're abandoned. They're totally abandoned by their tribe or their community or both, and they're left to die on the side of the road, literally.
We have invitations to go literally around the world. We have prosthetists that want to come with us and do this, to use their services for the kingdom. She's the first amputee woman to ever do this solely as an evangelical outreach.
I spent my whole time just crying, you know, just going, it's not, I mean, crying out of, I mean, there were so many that we needed and I wanted to give limbs to that we couldn't do. But it's unbelievable when you start seeing somebody that's not ever had.
The little boys saw their dad, their mother carried their father in, and Gracie asked him, said, you know, are you ready to see your daddy walk?
Yeah.
And the little boy said, yes, but we don't believe it. And then,
I mean, they were really polite and everything.
And then he comes around the corner, and they just, it's just like they didn't know what they
they came unglued.
And his wife just broke into "To God Be the Glory," you know, kind of. It was an amazing experience of people seeing wholeness for the first time in their life and realizing they can stand with dignity. It's an amazing thing to see. It is a metaphor for our entire life. We are there to point to Christ one leg at a time. That's all we do. And we're just so excited about this journey. We don't know where it's all going to go, but we're very excited about it.
I want people to be able to know that out of everything that I could ever do or say or sing or anything else, that they were pointed to Christ, that they were not pointed to Gracie or Peter or what we had on or what we were saying, but that they were pointed to Christ, whether we just got up there and didn't say anything, but that they were able to sense that there's something bigger. God is big enough to handle this, and obviously God was big enough for her, and if he can be big enough for her, then he can be big enough for me.
Take my hand, lean on me, we will stay.
Well, you know I'm really loving her now because Ghana is my home.
That's right.
That's where I spend Christmas every year with my dad. And I've seen those people on the side of the road because they don't have limbs and thought about it. But, you know, I mean, she took a step.
We talk about this a lot on Aspiring Women, how people go through really tough things in life. Mm-hmm. And yet you see it's the very thing when it comes full circle that gives them the opportunity to have the compassion, to have the understanding, the life experience for her to be able to go into those places and to speak to those people, put her arms around them, love them. Mm-hmm. It's very powerful.
Well, let me ask you a question now. They have this great ministry. Do you think that she did the right thing then, disobeying her parents and going on that trip with 3 hours sleep?
It's amazing. You know, it says all things work to the good for those who love the Lord and are called according to his purpose. And I think about my own accident. Would I ever have written a book if I hadn't been hit and laid up in the bed for a year and a half? You know, your misery becomes your ministry. Your test becomes your testimony if you yield to God at that time and grow better and not bitter over your circumstance.
Well, the great thing is they're giving tools to these people to help themselves. And she says, we just want to give them the ability to take the first step.
And that's huge.
And that's huge because it gets, like the little boy said, oh, my dad will never walk.
I know, did you love that?
No, we take so much for granted until something is hurt on you and you can't use it. Right. And you realize how it affects your entire body and even your sense of well-being.
That's true. Well, we'll be back with some final thoughts. Stay with us. This is just an amazing story of a very courageous woman who lost both of her legs after a tragic accident, and how she's really used this to bring life to so many people. Comfort with the comfort that she has known.
Exactly.
She really has done
they
that.
even go to Walter Reed Hospital and minister to soldiers who have come back from war, and they wake up and their legs are gone.
Can you imagine the shock of that?
She at least had the decision to make.
Yes.
But, you know, so I know it's a blessing for them to see how successful and how much she's accomplished.
But you know, think about it. I mean, to get a limb back is kind of like literally to get your life back to some people.
Yes.
You know, so much of your identity is built into your capability. And so she's giving a major gift with, you know, you might look at it as a small thing, but it's huge to the person.
And exactly. It may be a job. It may be provision for a whole family.
Well, you know, ladies, life is hard and none of us is exempt from suffering. Difficulty is guaranteed on the road of life, but misery and bitterness is optional. The choice is up to you. Will you be a victim or a victor? Will you use your trial as an opportunity to illustrate the grace and the power of God despite what has happened to you or what you might lack? Let Gracie's story be not just an inspiration, but a challenge to you. Give out of your pain and trials and suddenly find yourself richer and more whole than you ever dreamed. We'll see you next time.